Okay, today we're going to look at the Horikawa forklift robot made in Japan. I'm not really sure the actual date. Some say 1970s, could be late 60s, hard to say. It's fairly rare. And here are the functions. So, it walks, raises, and lowers its forklift. A common problem, and we'll go through this slideshow wise here, so let's re-aim everything to the computer. Okay. So here you can see the robot. Here's the front part of the body, and this part can come off as one piece. And you can see what's going on in there. A common problem with this particular toy is that the gear on the motor is a plastic gear, and they tend to split, and when they split then they slip, and you kind of need all the traction you can get there when this is going through its three different modes. The gearbox has three different sections: the walk, the up, the walk, the down. So another important thing is on the chain. The chain is tied to this forklift part solid here, loops around, goes down the back past two idler wheels on the back side of the body, around a bottom idler wheel, and then is spring loaded. If the chain has been grabbed and pulled by a kid or somebody and stretched and it gets too sloppy, then it's not going to bite in this little idler gear here, which is what drives the chain. Here's a picture of the plastic pinion gear up close, and in this particular case they tend to crawl inward. This one did anyway, every time it would try to run, because it had a split, which doesn't really show up well in the picture. And if you have a brand new plastic gear that fits tight on the shaft, then fine, but if not, what you're going to have to do is put on a brass gear. In order to do that, you need to remove the motor from the mechanism. We'll go through that more. We're now looking at this from the back side. This is, see the red you saw before in the front? This is where the battery box would actually be, sitting normally like this. What this picture shows you is how this large gear here, which is spring loaded, can be pushed. The spring will retract it over this way. Right now it's in walk mode. This would be forklift down. This would be walk. And then when it goes all the way over to this gear, that would be the forklift up. And what moves this shaft in and out is this lever over here pushing on the end of it. And what moves this lever is this cam with these funny cut lobes in it. And this cam is driven by a worm gear off this upper gearbox up here. This is white lithium grease that I was packing on the gears. I haven't taken off the excess yet in this picture, but it gives you an idea of that worm gear drive that drives that cam, which pushes this lever, which controls the shifting mechanism. Here we are back at the front. This is where the chain is going to come down and get pulled and pushed. This is a slip clutch, which you heard in the forklift video that you just watched. When it reached the top and it couldn't go any higher, then this allows us to slip, because something's got to give when it has gone as far as it can go. Here's the motor. When I was getting ready to take the motor out so I could replace the gear, I purposely cut the wires, leaving just a little bit of the insulation so I could remember which color went where, because obviously if you power this thing up backwards, you're really going to mess it up bad. Unfortunately, on this particular robot, the motor is external to the gearbox, so you don't have to tear the gearbox apart to get to the motor. You've got two tabs here and a tab there. You get the motor out, and this is with the new brass gear pressed in place. And again, another picture from the front showing the brass gear in and the wires back on. Everything's up. And that may be the end of the slideshow. I guess we got one more here. So you can see where they're soldered back onto the motor halves. This particular type of motor, the actual frame of the motor, one side's positive and one side's negative. They're not all the same like that. Alright, well, I think that's about all I wanted to tell you about the forklift robot, inside and out.